It looks like Kishimoto heard all the complaints about Boruto in 2021 and is wasting no time this year. I'm of course joking, but we actually do have a perfect start to the year for Boruto with the newly released chapter 66. A chapter where Amado is confirmed a snake, Kawaki awakens new crazy karma abilities, and more importantly, we see Boruto die and leave the earth to join Kurama beyond the pearly gates. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to claw armor notifications on to never miss an upload. We're approaching 400,000 subscribers and could use all the help we can get. Anyway, I'm excited. I know you're excited. Let's waste no more time and get into this. We had just previously seen Boruto lose control of his body to Momoshiki, and after that had happened, Code was easily pushed back. The power of Momoshiki far exceeded that of Boruto's regular karma output, and while Momoshiki would be delivering the beats to Code, we'd have a suspicious moment with Amado. And that sounds weird, but anyway, he'd kind of tune out Sai, who was debriefing him on the situation, and hope that Kawaki didn't ruin this. They'd come too far. At the time, we didn't know what this meant, but of course later, we see he was talking about the karma powers rising again for Kawaki. Again, back on the battlefield, Momoshiki would be spamming giant Rasengans like an amateur playing Ninja Storm on PlayStation. It was not looking good. Eventually though, Code would switch strategies and try taking Kawaki hostage, but that too would be stopped by Momoshiki pulling up with the stick, and by that I mean a new Rasengan called the Rasendan. He would fire the chakra bullet, piercing Code and freeing Kawaki. Kawaki too, however, was not spared the hands and had the beats delivered to him as well for trying to resist. Eventually, Naruto and Shikamaru would arrive on the scene to rescue Kawaki and attempt to stop Code, and Momoshiki, who again was still in control of Boruto. Kawaki was really worried for Naruto here because he was in the presence of Code, someone Kawaki believed Naruto could not beat, especially not without his QB chakra. Shikamaru would end up being held hostage by Code to stop Naruto, and Momoshiki would actually join in here, helping Code. After all, he too would benefit from Naruto being dead. This would ultimately lead to Kawaki attempting to save Naruto from yet another massive Rasengan. Momoshiki really is just a spammer. In the end, Naruto wouldn't need to take this damage or dodge because Kawaki was now back with a karma's power and would absorb the Rasengan, a trademark ability of the karma. The return of Kawaki's karma was thanks to Amado, a new form of Otsutsuki power that was simply power. Chapter 66 would open with Amado's thoughts on Kawaki and his karma. And man, just reading those thoughts, it reeks of manipulation. He clearly wanted Kawaki to believe the choice was his to get the power back, when really, he was being forced to take it. He didn't have a choice. The return of Kawaki's power came with some changes. Most notably at this part of the chapter, his pupils were different. It was now more like Ishiki's. Of course, everyone was shocked to see the return of Kawaki's karma, and Ada would try to shed some light on this development for Code. Like we mentioned earlier, it seems Kawaki didn't have a choice. Amado never intended for him to decide whether or not he wanted the karma back. It had already been reconstructed, most likely when Kawaki's right hand was replaced after the battle with Ishiki. Earlier in the story, in the fight against Delta, Kawaki had sacrificed his arm to save Himawari, an event that led to him having a prosthetic arm that operated using chakra from Naruto. This was the case until after the battle with Ishiki, by which point Amado had joined Konoha and was able to reconstruct Kawaki's arm after the battle. After this, according to Ada's theory, all that was left was to motivate Kawaki to want the power. Hearing this, Code would come to realize Amado may have used them as the final push to awaken the karma, and he would still be holding Shikamaru hostage at this time, so Shikamaru would hear this and now know that Code has an ally. Konoha is up to this point not aware of Ada and her ability to see all things, so this would be the first hint. I did think it was weird that previously Amado didn't consider Ada when Kawaki had left Konoha. I understand she was thought to be gone, but when Code seemed to have access to information he shouldn't know, it seemed logical that she would be considered. But anyway, from here Kawaki would look at himself and kind of take in the fact that yes, his power has returned. Still in control of Boruto's body, Momoshiki would note that it's not usually possible for a lost karma to manifest again, immediately wondering if this was Amado's doing. We know a karma can be given again after being lost. For example, that is what Ishiki tried to do to Kawaki before ultimately getting stomped out. However, we don't know much at all about a karma manifesting on its own again after being lost. It's probably so rare and strange in fact that Momoshiki had to conclude Amado must be responsible. Naturally, it wouldn't have happened on its own. And I wonder if this is how Boruto will regain his karma, assuming he loses it in some way following the incidents of this chapter. Because of the opening scene in the beginning of the manga, we know Boruto will have a karma in the end, so there's still the question of what goes on there. This next line cuts kinda deep despite being so simple. Momoshiki would call Kawaki a fool and tell him to continue being used by others until he gets fed to the 10 tails. And yes, it's true that Kawaki has always been used. First with his own father, you could say, then Jigen, Ishiki, and now Amado. Will Kawaki be able to end this cycle and act on his own truly? Time will tell. Now this is where the chapter turns up. Kawaki would activate the black rods that Ishiki previously used against Naruto. At the same time, it seems his pupil changed and again looks similar to Ishiki's. Momoshiki was able to easily dodge this, but the barrage would continue. Next, the massive cubes used previously by Ishiki again against Naruto would be summoned and would come crashing down around Momoshiki. Both jutsu, Daikokuten and Sukuna Hikona, were jutsu previously used by Ishiki. As Kawaki stood there looking like a new man with power, Momoshiki would have to wonder if Amado was trying to make him a second Ishiki. Right now, he sure looked like it. We all knew Amado was suspicious, but now the evidence was overflowing. Naruto would call out to Kawaki next and try to understand what was going on, but Kawaki would stop him and tell him to basically focus on protecting Shikamaru. After all, Code did threaten to kill Shikamaru if Naruto had moved. And this was not out of real concern, by the way, for Shikamaru or anything, and Kawaki made that clear very quickly. With a look of concern, Naruto would ask Kawaki how far he intended to go. It was clear he was attacking Boruto's body with no restraint, and not only that, but his attitude now seemed strange. Kawaki at this point was just cold. He'd reply that he'll do what needs to be done to protect Naruto. The fight would continue. Momoshiki would again attack Kawaki with a Rasengan, which was futile. From there, Kawaki would ready his counter and ready the classic fire-breathing jutsu to push Momoshiki back. That didn't do much, and Momoshiki would again push forward, ready to attack. Kawaki would now respond by shrinking himself, using another specialty of Ishiki to get behind Momoshiki. From behind now with the element of surprise, he'd turn his arm into a spear-type weapon and attack again, but this too would be dodged. The fight would go on, with Momoshiki trying to gain the upper hand, only failing as Kawaki continued to use jutsu we'd previously seen from Ishiki. My favorite moment from this fight may have to be the classic clash between a Rasengan and opposing attack. It's so simple, but to see Kawaki and Boruto, who was really Momoshiki during this, share this special moment is very nice. The clash would devastate the nearby area, but not conclude the fight. Kawaki would summon more structures using his new abilities, pushing Momoshiki back further before piercing his body in several places with black rods before calling game over. Momoshiki was about to be crushed by the massive black cubes now above him and falling. As he was about to be crushed, you could almost see a look of defeat on Boruto's face, but it was not over yet. Naruto would dash through and rescue him. This meant Naruto moved, and Shikamaru's life was now in danger. Or so you'd think, but Ko decided not to act because there would be no value in killing him now. Naruto would be holding Boruto, and Kawaki would look on with disappointment. Naruto was now angry and would yell at Kawaki, asking him if he really intended to kill Boruto. Kawaki would keep the same energy from earlier. He intends to do what's necessary. This is do or die. Naruto would again yell out, desperate to reach Kawaki, reminding him that Boruto is his son, and Kawaki would remind him that Boruto is also right now a demon who's after his life. Naruto would argue that Kawaki is the demon right now, and Kawaki was okay with being a demon because that didn't matter. What mattered to him now was Naruto was unable to handle this himself, so Kawaki believed he needed to do it. Naruto would tell him to cool his head, but Kawaki wouldn't be settled by any of this. To him, there was no other way. During all of this, Boruto's body, still possessed by Momoshiki, was in Naruto's hands. He would push Naruto away now, and Boruto and Kawaki would be left looking at each other now. It was then that the real Boruto would begin to awaken and fight back against Momoshiki internally. Boruto would win this internal battle and get right to it, stating that Amado's medicine seems to work. He is able to control Momoshiki's power to an extent, however this isn't a real solution. Something like what just happened is still possible. He almost killed his own father. There would be a pause, and then Kawaki would ask Boruto if he remembers a conversation they had. We'd see a flashback to when they were on top of the Hokage's faces, and Kawaki promised to get rid of Boruto's karma. Boruto would say he remembers it, and that he also now realizes that they'll need to execute their last resort plan. Kawaki would agree that unfortunately, he's right. Naruto was not a part of that planning, so he was visibly concerned and asked what they had planned. Instead of explaining, Boruto would say that he's sorry and tell Naruto to give his best to Himawari and Hinata. Naruto would beg to know what they were planning and ask him not to do anything rash, but Boruto would use Gale Palm and push him away. Kawaki would confirm that Boruto was ready, and Boruto would say yes he is, now is the time, while he could hold off Momoshiki. Kawaki was the only person he could ask to do this. Boruto would tell his brother to do it, and in an instant, Boruto would be impaled. Kawaki speared straight through his stomach with his modified arm. Everything froze as the life in Boruto's body faded, only Ada looked on calmly. With a massive hole through his body, Boruto fell to the ground as Naruto yelled out his name. And it seems like, at least for now, that is the end of Boruto. It remains to be seen how he somehow returns. We know he will, of course, because we have the time skip in the beginning of the story. However, how long it'll be until then remains to be seen. There's a lot to unpack with this one. Amado is for some reason turning Kawaki into Shiki, and Boruto is dead. Can't say I thought we'd be saying those words this year. Boruto didn't technically say goodbye to them, so maybe the plan involves him somehow being brought back to life in a way where he would lose the karma, or at least only keep it as a weapon. There's a lot to think about with this one, and it's honestly too much for one video and only a couple hours to process since the chapter's release. We do have some ideas though that we'll try to make into some theory videos or discussions while we wait on the next chapter. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to not miss out on any of that. And also, I'd like to quickly add that the art in this one was amazing, probably one of the best Boruto chapters overall. Let's get the hype going for 2021. Drop your RIP Borutos in the comments and share your thoughts on this chapter. Let us know what you think is going on. Until next time, keep that plot on you. I'm KJ. Have a great day. Goodbye.